Hey guys, what's going on? So today I have an update on the 1994 Buick Regal. It has come not very far since you guys last saw it, and unfortunately today is Friday, July 21st, the day before Lewis County, and there's no way this car is making it to Lewis County. I can tell you that for a fact. This car is definitely not making it. So here's the breakdown on the Regal. I got some more of the interior. I don't remember where I was in the last video. So much has happened since then, even though it's just been a short period of time. It's been pretty hectic around here, but got the interior stripped out here. I got the seat still in here, but I'm going to be taking this seat back out. I've decided to take the seat out because it's going to interfere with where my battery box is going to be, right down there on the floor. I'm sorry about the lighting, guys. But overall, the cage should come in here pretty quickly, as well as the gas tank, and the fuel lines are going to be ran obviously pretty quickly as well, because I keep having fuel issues with this thing. The fuel line blew, and the repair I did is good, but it blew. Now it's blown somewhere back here. Again, I can smell a hint of gas right now. I was going to start it up for you guys. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen now, but take my word for it. This thing's running fairly well. So here's the under hood update on it. You guys can see things have changed. And why I have the coil pack sitting right there is because the coil pack, not that the wires aren't long enough, because this is actually a harness for my last Regal, but the spark plug wires that go to the front are just simply not long enough to reach the wiper tray there. And for some reason, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but the the spark plug wires that I had last year on the other Regal have gone missing, and now I'm struggling to find spark plug wires that are long enough to reach from the wiper tray to the front of this engine. I will find some. That's not a big deal. I'll even if I have to buy them, I will. But the overall wiring harness, though, underneath the hood, I'm sorry about this lighting. This lighting is terrible. But the overall wiring is still about the same. Should be relatively easy to move once I get everything figured out here. I definitely gotta take all this apart. I know that the wiring for the fans is already taken care of. I believe I still have my old harness from the last Regal to run my fans from that. I still have to loop the transmission lines, but I cut out the wiper tray so everything can go up there. So it should be a pretty quick process. Don't take my word for it, but it should be a pretty quick process to get this wiring done now. That saved me a bunch of time having that already existing harness there. Unfortunately, it seems that something's gone wrong with it, though, because my tachometer is no longer working, and one of the things that works your tachometer is coming from the ignition module here, and I believe it to be this wire right here. I could be wrong. There's a couple of what look to be white wires sitting in here, so I'm gonna have to check over the harness. I know this connector is in bad shape. I just hope it holds up. It's pretty solid in there right now, but I don't know, it's sure seen better days, so I'm gonna have to really inspect it and make sure it's gonna be able to be all right, because if not, well, I'm gonna be spending a lot more time on wiring, because that means I'm gonna have to probably take this coil pack, or this entire harness, back out, and it's just going to be kind of a nightmare, unfortunately. But that's besides the point. I'm still fighting with this motor mount under here, trying to figure out what I want to do. Just a lot of things have not been done yet, and you know, I just hope that I have the time. I should be able to have the time to get it ready for Otsego County Fair. Unfortunately, Otsego County Fair Spinning Wheels has decided not to run the bone stock on Sunday again. For some reason, they ran it last year and didn't run it before that, and now they're back again not running it on Sunday. So unfortunately, I'm only going to be able to run Thursday. So if this thing's not junk, I don't know where I'm going to bring it after that. But I know it's not going to be Herkimer. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to run Herkimer. It's very possible I might just run Herkimer. It depends on whether I can get the car done in time, and that might just be the 07 Impala. That thing's in much rougher shape than I originally thought it was in. Update coming on that relatively soon, hopefully, as I get it stripped. But the almost disaster struck this thing. I mean, it was this close to being a complete disaster, and this car almost burning to the ground. And it would have been all my fault because I didn't pay attention enough. So when I was cutting this all here with the plasma cutter, unfortunately, what I forgot about these cars, or what I didn't expect, is that this is a dual, you can see the dual layers there. Right there, you can really see it right there where it's cut the most. And unfortunately, that lower half side is open to the inside of the car. Well, unfortunately, me using a plasma cutter, it blows sparks pretty fast because it's using air as well. That's how a plasma cutter works. It uses compressed air, and also, you know, how a plasma cutter works. But it blew the sparks into the dash. Unfortunately, I kept cutting, and I was just going and going and going. Eventually I just peeked into the car real quick because I know there was a lot of smoke coming from this area. And I just looked around, and I looked up, and I could see beyond the windshield that this entire car was full of smoke. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I stopped what I was doing. I threw everything down, and I came to this side of the car, and I looked in the dash, and I mean, everything was smoke. The entire dash was all smoking. It was hard for me to breathe. I could barely even get in the car because it was smoking so bad. Now, it did not smell like electrical fire, but it smelled like something was just burning deep inside the dash. So I ripped off the little speaker panels up here, and I looked in there, and there's nothing really to see in those. So I called my father out here, and him and I ripped this dash apart as quickly as we could. You never know it now because it's back to what it was. But I ripped the top panel off here. This is actually, I unbolted it and everything, and then I ripped the gauge cluster and all that out, and still couldn't see it. And what I've determined it to have been is the foam padding. Oops, almost dropped the camera. Foam padding right there. It looks like that runs all the way up to the top of the dashboard, and unfortunately one of the sparks must have got in there and started a little fire in there, or started melting it, and it just started smoking and everything. Perhaps the GM not making a really super flammable foam, and which I wouldn't expect it to be because it's on the firewall, so that would make no sense if it was flammable. But anyway, so that burned a little bit, and eventually smoke calmed down, and obviously I kept my eye on it for the next few minutes, and I kept cutting, because why not? And it was all good. So thank God that didn't go south real quick. But obviously I made sure the car would start after, and put it all back together, and it started right up. Actually, this thing's running better than it did before, because when I moved the coil pack, I removed the spark plugs. I replaced the spark plugs with better spark plugs that I had, because they were pretty shot. And the spark plug wires, every single spark plug wire broke on this thing, unfortunately. So it just is what it is. They were very old spark plugs, and they were falling apart anyway. But the car runs great now. It really runs better than any time my other Regal did. It really just runs that much better. So that's good news. That's very good news. I think the injectors are in good shape and everything else, and it appears that all this, like the throttle position and the MAF, are working very well. So runs very well now, but unfortunately the tachometer doesn't work, but that's because of, I think, my wiring up there. So unfortunately, I also found this harness sitting in the fender, and I should say fortunately, because I didn't know it even existed until I looked in there. I'm like, wait a second, that's going into the fender. And I looked down this side of the fender, down into there, and I could see the wiring harness running over to here. And it sat kind of like this, if you could imagine it being in the fender. it sat like this, and it bolted up to a module. It plugged into a module that was bolted inside the fender. And what I determined it to be, I looked up on all data, it ended up being a EBCM, an electronic brake control module, which is, for 1994, that's pretty advanced technology, at least for 1994. Not too many cars had that, at least not domestic cars. So I ended up removing it, and obviously I started it up without it being plugged in, and it works just fine. The car runs and drives just fine without it. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'll probably just cut it back here, and I'll wrap it in some electrical tape and call it a day and keep the wiring. And I don't know, I might even sell the EBCM out of this thing, because I think they're pretty rare, so I don't know how demanded they are. I don't know how often they break. This one might be broken, I don't even know. I'm gonna have to test it or whatever. See if I can talk to it with a OBD scanner, OBD1 scanner, because this is an OBD1 car. See if I can even talk to it or anything, but we'll have to see. But that's the update on the 1994 Regal. The 07 Impala, like I said, is getting on its way to being stripped. Hopefully that one's just going to be a quick strip and go kind of car. I'm still going to put the gas tank inside. I just don't know how I'm going to mount it, because I think I'm going to end up having the cage still inside this car, so I'm going to have to rip the gas tank out of that one and somehow mount it in that car. I'm just not sure how that's going to go unless I junk this Regal in one run, which I very much doubt I'm going to do. So in bone stock, I feel like at this point have yet to bend the front frame of a Regal, so and I'll be darned if that transmission and engine still work. I'm gonna run it until it is dead, or if this front frame's so bent that I can't run anymore. I will run this car unless something catastrophically goes wrong with the engine and the transmission. I will keep running this car until it is dead. So hopefully I hold up to that. I will keep it over the winter if it's still good. There's no doubt about it. I'm gonna run it everywhere I possibly can and want to, if it's not dead. So anyway, there is another car you guys have not seen, and yes, it is a demo car, and it is actually the car I was talking about in the Impala video. Go back to the Impala video in case you haven't watched it. You guys will catch a hint in there. I was throwing around that I was looking at another car, and that was before I even bought this car. I've been looking at this car for years. I think it actually has been 4 years, but I've been looking at it for many years, and finally I got my hands on it. And I tell you what, this thing's been a hot commodity. People have tried to steal it and have failed too, and people have actually tried to get a hold of the owner, and she knows that people have been trying to buy it for years, but I was the lucky guy to get a hold of it. And why I say lucky is because, and well, you guys will see why I say lucky, and hopefully I'm lucky. Hopefully the thing's not like blown up or something, but I'm pretty stoked about it. So stay tuned. We got many more videos coming up. We got the Lewis County Fair Demolition Derby tomorrow that I'm going to record, and things are gonna get really hectic around here. I have a feeling already more hectic than what they have been. It is going to be a race to get this thing finished, the Impala finished, just so we can get a few derbies in this year. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm able to do it all, but having little help doesn't help. So it is what it is. I'll try to get my crap together and get this thing done and get the other one done, so you guys can have a full good demo season from me, and hopefully I can keep the videos rolling even though we might be building something over there. So so stay tuned. There's many more updates coming. Hopefully they don't slow down, and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye everybody.